How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today we're going to talk about the 5 most underrated suburbs of Denver, Colorado, and we're diving in starting right now. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everson, listener. If you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons of moving to or around the Denver Metro and Colorado Front Range, then this is the channel for you. So you're going to want to click on that subscribe button and notification icon as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be informative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we're helping people like you move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person answering those phone calls, answer those texts, answer those emails. There, winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is the 5 most underrated suburbs of Denver, Colorado. All right, so why is this important? Well, unless you have spent a lot of time in Denver, and this goes for any city, anywhere, unless you spend a good period of time there, there are certain areas, certain neighborhoods, certain suburbs that are just gonna fly under the radar. They're just not talked about as often. Maybe they're not as big, maybe the population is lower, maybe they had a reputation that they have since overcame. And so what I wanted to do today was talk about some of these suburbs that are just like that, ones that fly under the radar. I think when I talk to a lot of people who are moving to Denver or around the Denver metro area, certain cities tend to always pop up. People hear about Aurora. They hear about Lakewood, the suburb I live in. They hear of Littleton. These are bigger, larger suburbs. And then there's some that I mention in conversation and people routinely tell me, I haven't heard of that one, or they didn't quite notice it when they looked at a Google map or as they asked people. And let's be real, if you want to move to Denver and you want to find a really cool area that's livable and affordable and has some amenities, you're going to have to dig deeper than just that surface level stuff. And so that's what we're here for, is to give you an express lane to some of the cooler suburbs of Denver that might have otherwise slipped your viewpoint. And these aren't just bedroom communities. These are places that are growing, they're thriving, they have some culture to them. They're in good locations that give you access to a lot of things you might want to do. So with that being said, the first one is actually 2 suburbs in one, and that is Wheat Ridge and Edgewater, located just west of Denver, right bordering pretty much Denver proper. And if you've heard of neighborhoods like the Highlands and Sloan's Lake, Edgewater and Wheat Ridge might be very popular for you because of their access to those 2 neighborhoods. So Edgewater sits just on the west side of Sheridan Boulevard, just on the other side of Sloan's Lake. Only a handful of blocks in size. Edgewater is not big by any means, but it has a variety of different things that you might want. It's got a variety of housing, first off, single family, townhome, apartments, condos, you name it. It's got some new construction. It's got some homes that have been around for decades. It's got some culture to it. Edgewater also has a unique blend of walkability, especially along 25th Avenue, which comes just off of Sloan's Lake. There's some great areas over there. Includes one of my favorite breweries, Joyride, a bunch of restaurants. The Edgewater Beer Garden is just further up 25th. So a lot placed into this smaller community. So again, Edgewater is not a big suburb by any means. It's a handful of blocks. That's why I include Wheat Ridge in it. So as you continue to move west, you get into the suburb of Wheat Ridge. Now Wheat Ridge, much like Edgewater, has some historical areas. It's got some homes that have been around and some neighborhoods that have been around for a long period of time. It also has a large amount of new construction, newer homes, remodeled homes. So you can find something to fit kind of anywhere you are in life, and it has a variety of price points. You'll also have a corridor on 38th Avenue that's filled with restaurants and shops, one of the best bike shops in all Wheat Ridge Cycle. And so you've got these 2 communities that overlap to some extent, and there's just a lot there. What I love about Wheat Ridge and Edgewater, among other things that I've mentioned already, is that location. That prime location where you can easily get to Sloan's Lake, Highlands within 10 minutes. You can easily get downtown in maybe 15, 20 minutes. And you're on the west side of town. You're on the west side of Sheridan, if not the west side of Wadsworth and getting into Kipling. So your access to the mountains is very quick. You're close to I-70. You don't have that far of a drive to 6th Avenue, which is an east-west freeway getting into Denver and also, again, getting into the mountains of Golden and the Front Range, I should say. So you just have this great location, and these suburbs are both pretty small. So Edgewater and Wheat Ridge are surrounded, again, by these bigger suburbs like Arvada, Lakewood, and then Denver itself. So oftentimes when I mention it to people, they just haven't seen it yet because it's such a small area. You have to kind of zoom in on your Google map to be able to see it. Next up on the list, we go north of Denver to the suburb of Westminster. Now, Westminster might not necessarily fall under your radar. You might be aware of Westminster, especially because of its size. It is one of the larger northern suburbs of Denver. But the developments and kind of the evolution of Westminster might be, and also because of Westminster's size, there are certain communities within it that, again, you might just not consider. And one of the really powerful things to me about Westminster is the fact that it is doing a pretty good job, as much as you can in Denver, of balancing growth with affordability with some historic preservation. So as of the making of this video, the median home price in Westminster sat at about $510,000. Now that includes attached homes, so it's going to be somewhat misleading. But affordability still pretty solid in Westminster. You have parks galore. You have 3,000 acres that include Stanley Lake. It includes Westminster City Park. So a lot happening there. And then you have massive development projects under the 2040 comp plan. So in Westminster, one of my favorite areas is as you head up Route 36, you hit Route 36 and Wadsworth, there's this huge development. They have an Alamo Draft House. They have an Origin Hotel. They just have a lot being built there. Most of my video is while it's snowing out, so I do apologize for that. But just a great area with a lot to do. And that is kind of becoming, or is, Westminster's downtown. If you know any of my videos, you know how much I appreciate a good walkable downtown area. So, I mean, Westminster has everything. It has historic landmarks like Westminster Castle. It has high-quality city services. It has an 80% satisfaction rating from its residents. And I don't know where you're coming from, but there's not a lot of communities where 80% of the people enjoy living there. You have Stanley Lake, which is a beast for kayaking, paddle boarding, camping. And again, we talk about location. You're halfway between Denver and Boulder, so you've got quick access to either or. And I think, I've mentioned it a couple times, I just don't think Westminster gets the credit it deserves for its growth and positive growth that you're starting to see. So it's overlooked a lot of times by Denver locals, and it's absolutely a suburb you should consider taking a look at. And next up is the neighboring suburb of Thornton. And Thornton and Westminster have long been suburbs that people would look to for affordability, but I want to talk about them not just for that, because these are communities that are really growing and seeing some positive things happen. So Thornton was once a planned community. It is now a booming suburb with over 140,000 residents and counting. Again, we talk about that affordability aspect. As of the making of this video, the median home was sitting at about $535,000. And Thornton is home to 81 parks, 80 miles of trails. It's got a major RTD line, the N line, so you have light rail access, and it is known as one of the most diverse suburbs in the Metro Denver. And you'll see in some of the feedback I've gotten is that Thornton is built on family. So you'll have festivals like Thornton Fest. You have rec centers everywhere. You have one of the better transit setups as far as Denver goes, as far as that light rail access. And it's known as a powerhouse for people who want space. They want a level of affordability. They want accessibility. Again, Thornton, very close to Westminster. You have that access to Boulder, easy to get down into Denver, and you're not too far from the mountains. And I would say Thornton is growing on purpose. They've planned out future rail stops. They've planned out more parks, new community centers. It's not reacting to growth. Thornton is doing a really good job of engineering it. And I think as I compare it to a community like Lakewood that I live in, they deserve credit for that. They're doing a very good job of engineering this development. Next up, we're gonna go a little northwest, and yes, you are gonna notice that several of my underrated suburbs are west and northwest of Denver, but that is Lafayette. So Lafayette is, listen, one of my absolute favorite communities. It's a community that I myself would consider living in. At least it'd be high on my list if I moved from where I am now. Lafayette, located northwest of Denver, southeast of Boulder. So it's one of these communities like Louisville and Superior that you might hear about that are right between. They're right on that Route 36 axis for the most part, heading from Denver up to Boulder. So a lot of people will choose Lafayette for Boulder Valley school districts, which are among the highest rated school districts in all of the Denver metro, or Colorado for that matter. They will choose it for, again, that access. You hear this reoccurring theme of being able to get to Denver, being able to get to Boulder very quickly, while not necessarily paying for the price point of either. And I think of all of these communities, Lafayette brings a vibe that the others can't touch, because you get that Boulder County without the Boulder County pretentiousness. It's creative, it's diverse, it's rooted in history, it's an old coal mining town, it's got, wait for it, you know how much I love that downtown area with walkability and shops and a lot of mom and pop operated businesses. And it's just very inviting. Now it's going to be on the higher end price point of what we've talked about before as of the making of this video. The median sale price sat at $705 to about $846. I mean, it really varies by month there. You have Old Town Lafayette, which is filled with festivals and restaurants, arts, and a ton of walkability. You've got Winnetka Lake, which is great for boats, trailers, has some killer views. You've got the mountains right there. I mean, it is Colorado living in its essence. And again, when I talk about having, some of that Boulder feeling that we talk about, Lafayette's identity is tied to inclusivity and creativity. Their Downtown Development Authority and Legacy Lafayette plan are really pushing for economic growth that doesn't sacrifice the soul of the town. And that's one thing, again, I talk about really enjoying about Lafayette. When you go there, you just feel like they're holding on to who they are while still evolving. And I think Lafayette is great for a variety of lifestyles, whether you're single, whether you're a couple, friends, moving with family. Certainly a very popular family community. No hiding that. Again, because of that walkability, because of education, because of authenticity. And again, for families, can't say it enough, you get that Boulder Valley School District without Boulder prices. And our last, and not because I simply didn't want to keep you all up north, but because it's actually one of my favorite suburbs and one that a lot of folks have enjoyed south of Denver, is Englewood. And so Englewood butts right up against Denver. You can take I-25 south, you can take Broadway south out of Denver, and Broadway ends up running right through the heart of Englewood. Downtown Englewood is along South Broadway. And so Broadway is underrated for a big reason. One, it's right next to Denver. It has a killer transit ability to get into the city. And it's quietly becoming one of the coolest spots in the metro area. Now, Englewood is one of those suburbs that had a reputation behind it, run down, poor, beat up, schools in bad shape. And listen, there was probably a period of time, 80s and 90s, went to school around Englewood, not too far from it, where that was probably accurate to some extent, but rapidly becoming just one of the coolest communities that you're going to find. Englewood's sizable, so you've got the areas right around downtown Englewood. You've got along Hamden or 285. You've got a business community. Used to be Cinderella City back in the day, one of my favorite malls. But now this large community center with a lot of businesses, a lot of shops, a local pretty big rec center there for Englewood, and then houses and communities galore. Your median home price sits right around $575,000 to $585,000 as of the making of this video. I have to keep saying that because otherwise someone's going to see the video and say, when were houses $585,000? Englewood's got access to a great light rail station. You've got, as I mentioned, the city center and South Broadway, which are revitalizing fast. So you've got some newer bars. You've got some places that have been around forever. Some of my favorite restaurants and bars along that South Broadway corridor. You also have Pirates Cove, which I believe I have video of, but always when there's no water in it. So I got to tell my editor, I promise I'm going to get out to Pirates Cove and get video of it with water. but a great place to take your kids. And just that type of community that gives you a mix. If you want to have a more urban, suburban living, you can have it. But it also has, some just great, quiet suburbs. You want older, historic houses on big lots, you have it. You want a ton of new construction. Englewood is one of the biggest communities around Denver for homes that have been scraped and rebuilt. So you've got a lot of new construction there, a lot of options. And again, you're going to hear this. This is a city that is actively rebranding itself through smart redevelopment, especially along that South Broadway corridor, which has really been transformed into this walkable, artsy, and commerce-friendly area. And with that, Englewood blends history and modern living and accessibility better than most suburbs that Denver has to offer. And again, you can't beat that location. The fact that you have that quick access to Denver, you're right off of 285, which is a road that turns into a highway that runs right into the heart of the Rockies. You really have a great location, ton of good views, not bad at all. So looking beyond the obvious, these suburbs that I mentioned, I know I said 5, we technically have 6. Wheat Ridge, Edgewater, Westminster, Thornton, Lafayette, Englewood. They are no longer Denver's best kept secrets today. They are rapidly growing in popularity, but again, they're still kind of subtle. Not everybody is talking about them. They are wildly unappreciated by locals, I will tell you that. Wildly unappreciated by a lot of people who are moving here as of now. Some of the key takeaways of each of them: proximity to Denver without the price tag, deep community roots and modern amenities, active planning and revitalization occurring in the communities, and then that access to nature, transit, and culture, all right there for the having. And in a real estate market, whether you are buying or renting where things are competitive and some of the best areas can get pricey, these are 5, kind of 6 that you should absolutely check out. And as you do, that's a perfect opportunity to hit me up with a phone call, with a text, with an email. I'd love to get your thoughts and your feedback on these areas as you explore those. Those always help me as well to be more accurate and helpful in these videos. That was the 5 most underrated suburbs of Denver, Colorado. Until I see you next time, peace.